train lines are being affected by rotating power cuts.
Right, we've heard about that. Now, interestingly, Dan, I just came back from Osaka a little bit earlier tonight, or perhaps last night, on Tuesday night, March 15th, and the Shinkansen was virtually empty, as was Tokyo Station. Immediately after Tokyo Station, I took a walk over to Ginza, and it was oddly dark and uncrowded as well. For the most part, all of the neon lights were out that usually blaze in the sky over there. Then I took the Hibiya-sen over to Roppongi, got out there, took a look around there, and all of those giant TVs that are usually on in that intersection there, they were all off, and the streets were very uncrowded and somewhat dark. And I was surprised to see that so many shops have been closed. Has that been your experience? Have you noticed that?
It has been my experience at NHK. Lighting is only on in the offices that absolutely need it. It's dark in the hallways. And as I commute to and from work, I've seen a lot of shuttered stores. As you probably already experienced, a lot of the supermarket stores and convenience stores have bare shelves and are having trouble restocking. The gasoline is being rationed, and there are very long waits in lines for gas stations. So these obviously all feed into the entertainment picture, and if we really wanted to get into an exhaustive discussion of how many events have been canceled in Tokyo over the past few days, we'd have to go look at all the Japanese live houses and the clubs, and we're talking about hundreds or possibly even thousands of venues.
Dan, there has been some talk about some of that radioactive steam coming here to Tokyo. You, of course, live in Tokyo with your family. Have you given any thought to evacuating Tokyo?
Well, I think anyone with an option and with somewhere to go has given it some thought. They'd have to be idiotic not to. As it so happens, we already had a vacation planned next week, which we're going to go ahead with as scheduled.
How convenient. Are you sure you didn't just plan this within the past few days?
I don't know if we would have been able to get tickets at this stage. I think there's a huge foreign exodus underway from Japan.
Do you feel that the government here is telling us the truth? You, of course, are working at what some people call the Ministry of Truth. Do you feel that we're getting the right information from the government about the nuclear plants and the explosions that are happening at Fukushima?
This government, the Democratic Party, was elected on a platform of transparency, and Prime Minister Khan's whole reputation is based on revealing the AIDS hemophilia scandal a decade or two ago. So I think he and his administration are doing their best to ensure that the public gets accurate information. The big question is, does the power company and the people out there at Fukushima who are actually on the ground, do they even know what's happening? And are they able to provide us with a really clear picture of what's going on? And that's where the big question mark comes in. There's an online site that provides Geiger counter readings for Tokyo, central Tokyo, updated on a 10-minute basis, which I have tweeted on the Metropolis website, and I've also posted it on my Facebook page, and I'm recommending everyone to, so you can see for yourselves that the radiation levels are still far, far below any level that could be considered dangerous. What I will say is that if you look at this Geiger reading from downtown Tokyo that you can see online, it shows a spike in radiation at about basically around midday, which is probably attributed to the explosion at, I think, the number 1 reactor it was today. I could be wrong about that.
I think it was the number 4 reactor. Number 3 and number 4 exploded today, from what I understand.
However,
can you tell us that website, Dan?
Yep. It's kind of a tough one, but here goes. mu.jklmnop.net/Japan. This is a mirror site of another site that's getting so overloaded with traffic that someone put it up on a mirror site so that people could access it.
Dan, before we let you go, one last question. Tell us your experience. Where were you? What happened to you when the quake hit?
I'd just split up from my wife and son. We'd been out to my son's school for a parent-teacher conference, and we had just split up, and I was literally right at the entrance of NHK on the fourth floor, which is a huge battleship-like structure in Shibuya. There were big trucks in the parking lot preparing for a festival, so when I felt the first vibrations, I assumed it was just some big 16-wheelers rolling around. Quickly, it became clear that this was something serious, and I braced myself in a doorway just inside the entrance and basically just focused on survival for that 1 or 2 minutes of tremendous rocking and rolling of this gigantic building.
Were you scared? Frightened?
I was terrified.
Terrified.
And, of course, my immediate thought was to my wife and son.
Sure.
As soon as the shaking ended, I ran outside and I tried to call them, but the phone lines were jammed. So I went into the office and I basically got right to work helping to prepare scripts for NHK World's reporting. And then about an hour, I kept sending my wife emails, and about an hour later I was able to hear from them that they were on the train at Nakameguro Station, got a good rocking, but apparently it was not too bad. No, it didn't jump off the tracks. And after about a half an hour, they opened the door of the station, and my wife and son walked home about maybe 3 or 4 miles from Nakameguro back to Yoyogi.
Well, Dan Grunebaum, thank you very much for all the information, and thank you for sharing your quake experience with us here in the Metpod. I know you're going to be extremely busy over the next few days doing your translation work over there at NHK, and of course providing our listeners and our readers of Metropolis Magazine with information about concerts that have been postponed, scheduled, or those that are being rescheduled. Dan Grunebaum, music and performing arts editor for Metropolis Magazine and news writer for NHK. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kong.